It has obviously been an incredibly exciting week, but even since the spectacle of Flight Test 10, we've learned so much more in just the past few days. Along with other areas of Starbase and big moves in Florida, we've got it all. Brand new hardware to explore, another record-breaking mission for SpaceX, and much, much more.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Hey, Marcus House with you here, and it has been quite the week. Since my video diving into Flight Test 10 on Tuesday, we've learned a bunch of interesting new stuff. If you need to catch up on that, by the way, that was published the next morning. Now you've had a lot of great questions, so some quick answers for you. Some thought SpaceX had removed the propellant load indicators. Previously, we've had these two separate indicators for methane and oxygen, but that has been simplified and made more subtle. It is now this bar that wraps around the engine status diagrams. Speaking of that neat data, right next to that is a new addition as well, a 3D animated model showing the attitude of the vehicle. This means we not only get to see the pitch angle, but also the roll and other position information. This is really useful, especially later on in the flight, because this even indicates the position of the flaps on the ship. Something that I hadn't spotted immediately was the subtle velocity vector as this line extending out of the model. That becomes much more obvious near the end where the ship does the flip. There is a lot of very loved data presented with everything now, including the G-force readout. Surprisingly, the max G-force sustained during re-entry was only about 2.4, which is even less than the Space Shuttle, which experienced a maximum of about 3, and that is a lot lower than capsules where even 5G can be normal. While on the topic of G-loads, this brings us to the moment where they did these seesaw movements where they heavily stress tested the flaps. This was all intentional, of course, and also where the G-force indicator showed that highest 2.4 G. Now, something else that we were looking out for that I forgot to mention in the video the other day was how well the tower catch fittings survived. Well, this great shot here shows that this was still intact, and just like the majority of the heat shield, it did glow somewhat. This should greatly improve again with the next generation catch fittings being installed on Block 3 ships like Ship 39 and onward. Sadly, we still don't have an official update about the reason why the explosions in Ship 37's aft happened, but the leading speculation still seems to be that the engine chill lines, which are right here underneath the flap aero cover, got blocked. Eventually, enough pressure could have built up, leading to them rapidly disassembling themselves as well as part of the aft flap and the skirt. I've got to say, I'm feeling pretty thankful that this only seemed to result in minimal damage, meaning that we got to still watch a spectacular fiery re-entry with all those interesting fireworks on display. Not just due to the damaged areas, but also with all of those tile experiments going on. Now is absolutely the best time to gather all that possible data, given that these test ships are never meant to be reused. Given that the previous 3 flights ended prematurely, it must be amazing for all the engineers at SpaceX to have this treasure trove of information to comb through as they prepare for modifications in the next design upgrades. Now, later in the week, SpaceX stepped up the game again with a load of super images and video to run over, including, of course, the mind-boggling camera in the launch mount capturing this liftoff. How they can even have a camera survive all the forces in there is beyond me. Next up, though, they released the shots that I was hoping for. This is amazing. Even though Ship 37 was stress-tested well beyond expectations and encountered these small explosions in the skirt, here it was performing that flip and landing burn, now seen in much higher quality than from the live stream ocean camera. Isn't that incredible? Notice that after re-entry, the majority of the nose cone is covered in this white substance, but the bigger head scratcher, as I talked about in the previous video, is this bizarre orange discoloration over much of the heat shield. Theories instantly sprung up, with some people suggesting the vehicle had shed all of its tiles, and this was simply the stainless steel from the tank that had oxidized. I mean, given that we were watching the heat shield from onboard cameras, there was no evidence of that at all. Well, these much higher quality images show clearly that the tiles are still on, but why those colours coating it all in orange and white? Thankfully, it has been confirmed that the orange rusty deposited material came from the metallic tile test installed near the top at the payload bay. Up further, the white material has come from the insulation beneath the tiles. Now, in case you're wondering how SpaceX captured that footage from sea level, here is the tank section from Ship 31 from Flight 6. Yes, this image was only just released at the end of this week, and it shows the buoy used at the time right in front for scale, all using Starlink to transmit the data live. Now, rewinding all the way back, what about the fate of the Flight 10 booster of 16? Interestingly, it appears that the grid fin inside the camera's view here may have stuck in place as it didn't move towards the resting position. Not sure if that was intended or not, but in previous flights, that isn't what we had seen. Now, shout out to the everyday astronaut footage at the moment of engine cutoff too, because Tim captured the aftermath of that drop into the ocean that we couldn't see from the live stream. Yes, as expected, a very rapid disassembly upon impact there, which was obviously intended. That should mean that no huge parts of the booster remained intact like we previously saw with Booster 13's entire aft section that was recently recovered. More exciting updates to the Starship program as a whole too. On Wednesday, this reply to Tim here said that the first Starship catch attempt is probably between flights 13 and 15 depending on the success of the Block 3 flights. Given all of the issues SpaceX has had with the Block 2 Starship in flights 7, 8 and 9, it doesn't make sense to attempt anything too crazy with the very last Block 2 on flight 11. This would mean SpaceX would need a pretty perfect first Block 3 mission for flight 12 for flight 13 to go for a catch, but we'll soon find out. I don't know about you, but seeing all that Flight 10 action was so inspiring. It had been a pretty tough year up to this point, and I just want to say how much I appreciate you still being subscribed and watching along. You and the insightful questions that you ask in the comments make this channel what it is, so thank you. Now, what are your bets for the Flight 11 plan? Again, I really want to see a full orbital mission at this point, along with some real Starlink satellites being deployed. However, with the aft issues, the FAA might require another mission to be sure that SpaceX is ready for that. What do you think? Now, it really was the week for a huge information dump because we got to know a lot more about the future of Starbase thanks to this new permit application. Indeed, SpaceX is looking to expand the Starbase launch area once again, and this plan answers quite a few questions that we've recently been asking. At Pad 1, we can see that they will keep and upgrade the tower where needed, but get rid of the current launch mount structure entirely and convert that area to the same flame trench and bunker design that we've seen on Pad 2. This is great because it puts to rest any of those strange rumours about Pad 1 turning into just a catch tower. Now, in this area, we also see a tank farm expansion with HEX there, which I assume means heat exchangers. It looks like the Pad 1 deflector farm will follow the footprints of the one being built at Pad 2 currently, so all of this is going to change. And check this out. What we can see here is 2 zones planned to liquefy natural gas, which is exciting because coupled with the air separation unit north of the roundabout, SpaceX should be able to produce the majority of the 3 main cryogenic commodities needed: methane, oxygen and nitrogen. It's also worth noting that the water supply lines now run all the way to the launch site. We believe that that is hooked up to the new Pad 2 already in fact, but not in the current Pad 1 water tanks. Also included this area for liquid methane generation, which we are guessing simply takes the natural gas, removes the unwanted hydrocarbons like ethane out of it, and outputs the pure methane to the tank farm. What all of this should mean is that the hundreds of delivery trucks will be greatly reduced in the future, which is terrific. Now, before moving on, this new road will hook up the roundabout to an entrance close to Pad 1, and that road will now also surround the entire launch site. So yeah, if everything sticks to this plan, the gateway to Mars is going to look real different in the future. Activity has certainly not died down at the production site despite all of the interruptions from the Starship Flight 10 activity. We had some incredible videos from inside the Star Factory, one beautiful high-resolution view from the live stream coverage this week, and this shot looks to be from about a month ago given the few clues that we can see around Ship 39's nose cone progress here. You can see it's missing tiles and flaps and all sorts of things. Then we have the vertical video shared at the start of the week, which was freshly recorded now. That was sadly in vertical format, but beggars can't be choosers. What we are looking at here is the ship's nose cone assembly area alongside the barrel storage area. There's quite a lot to take in from this shot. On the left side, we can see at least 7 nose cone sections in various stages of production. This one at the front is still missing the tip of its nose cone, this one here missing the lower half assembly, and the 3 on the left having that final part. All the way in the back with some tiles already installed is of course Ship 39, the one that we've already been watching through the outside windows for the last few weeks. That is the first Block 3 ship in progress. It also looks like they may have a triple ring payload bay ready to go here as well. Moving across, we can see a mix of 3 and 4 ring barrels sitting here. This one at the corner looks to be a booster forward barrel because we can see the 3 cutouts for the grid fins. Down in the middle, we can see these controlled environment workstations with doors and ventilation ducts, and then we've got a bunch of header tanks which go into the nose of the Starship upper stages. The footage of the same Star Factory streamed from the live launch this week was much higher quality. Yes, we are just getting started, and having the team working along with me to pull all this together for you takes a load of management. There's always paperwork flying around. Approvals, sign-offs and agreements can be a real time sink. That's where Odoo comes in. Look, this is the 21st century, right? No way I should be sending PDFs around to manually have people sign or scan stuff to send back to me. With Odoo Signature, you can create, send and get documents signed online in just a few clicks. With this, I can upload a prepared agreement document, drop in signature boxes, name fields, and whatever I need, and I can of course make any element mandatory or optional if I want. Even if I just want one person to sign or several, it is all set up to be super easy for them to tick off. You can even set up automatic reminders for everybody just so nothing gets forgotten. Signatures can be managed by typing, drawing with mouse or finger, or even uploading a scan. All of the recipients can open it on any device and sign in just seconds, and you'll know exactly where everything stands thanks to the real-time tracking. You can see what's pending, signed or declined, and get notifications on all of it. Every signature is secure and legally valid in over 100 countries, including Europe and the US, and every signer gets a unique traceable link, so everything is compliant. You can of course save templates for documents that you use a lot, keep them all stored in one unlimited searchable space, and never lose track again. So yeah, send and sign your documents for free with Odoo's first app offer, which is free for life and includes unlimited hosting and support. When you grow, you can just add more apps without a hitch. Head over to odoo.com to check it out. The link is right there below. Thank you, Odoo. Okay, so back to the higher quality Star Factory footage. Here is that nose cone assembly hall once again, roughly 4 weeks back. The difference with the way that they are constructing parts now compared to back when they were making these test vehicles and tents is really quite a big difference, isn't it? Everything is so nice and clean here with tons more space to utilise than before. We've got a fresh look at these little rest stations that they have here with a view of the launch pads on one side and nose cones for the world's largest rocket on the other. Not a bad place for a coffee break. This video also has a good view of the jigs they have to aid in assembly too. Some neat close-up views of more developed nose cones were included. This one here has an oxygen header tank vent at the top, flap hinges and aero covers, as well as pins for the tiles. Next up was what looked to be that test article hot stage section for the future Super Heavy, with the hot stage bars being set up. Compared to the one that we saw during Elon's update back in May, this one has the black mounting clamps, stringers across the grid fin mounting points, and internal stringers that weren't seen on the first prototype. The reason that this must be a test article, by the way, is because they've welded stringers over the grid fin hole. You're not going to do that on a section intended for flight. They really are mass manufacturing these barrel sections already now, and wrapping it up, here was that same grid fin angle that we saw a couple of weeks ago, but now in video. Star Factory is a true production line already, and the vehicle production speed is going to skyrocket once this is all completely set up. Once combined with the Gigabay, this is going to be absolutely epic. Speaking of, groundwork at the Gigabay site is coming along really nicely. They've now kicked off the concrete pour into the pile cap, especially in this corner where we have already been watching the process of the rebar installation the past couple of weeks. Thanks to some fresh shots from RGV aerial photography, we can see the 24 workstations in the bay beginning to make an appearance as the excavating work continues. 6 rows and 4 columns there. Late in the week, the team was hard at work pouring the second part of that foundation with a total of at least 12 separate parts. Okay, so we have the one remaining Block 2 ship to fly, Ship 38, in Flight 11. Early on this week, a nice shiny aft flap there was lifted up into the left side of the bay. Soon after, the second aft flap joined it, so that now has all 4 flaps installed. With Flight 10 now hugely successful, it shouldn't be too long until we see both Booster 15 go out for its static fire test, followed by this Ship 38 here. Now, Booster 15, just as a reminder, has already flown previously back on Flight 8 in March, so this would be the second reused Super Heavy flight. Exciting times. Now there is even more fun to dive into around Florida's Launch Complex 39A. Spaceflight now caught what should be the first pieces of the support bunker being lifted over to the Starship flame trench. It is a little hard to see in this view, but huge thanks to Landon Young on X here who posted these awesome photos. Give that account a follow because this clearly shows the construction well underway and much more. Along with that, these shots of the two flame bucket parts sitting next to the Falcon horizontal integration facility there are wild, and we haven't seen it in this detail before. These two ends angle up to meet at the top as we saw with the installation of Pad 2. We can also see that the tower arms are still receiving loads of attention with the scaffolding still surrounding it. Getting Starship online at the Cape is really important for SpaceX and especially to the Artemis program, so it's good to see huge resources being invested right here now. So along with all that crazy action, there was plenty more from SpaceX to go with it. Last Sunday, CRS-33 was here launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral, and as you may recall me mentioning last week, this was a particularly exciting mission. That is because the Dragon has brand new hardware installed on this mission to more effectively test out reboosting the International Space Station. Pushing it out of the atmosphere, of course, Booster 1090 was flying here for its 7th mission. Now, during the live stream, we got to see some neat comparisons of the different Dragon configurations, which I thought was pretty cool. They've really made this quite modular so that they can easily switch out the typical docking equipment with a cupola like we most recently saw in the Fram 2 mission, or what they call the Skywalker from Polaris Dawn. What we were more interested in though was this view here inside the trunk. What we are seeing in here is the sweet new independent propellant system. This has two Draco engines installed to go with it, although from this perspective we don't seem to have those in view, just the propellant systems and other equipment attached there. Now I'm guessing this center tank is a COPV likely containing helium for pressurization of the other 6 tanks. The propellant is of course hypergolic, just like the Dragon uses for its regular 16 Draco thrusters that it uses for its control. I suspect 3 of these are the NTO and the other 3 for the MMH. Propellant is heavy, and although these tanks might look small, this extra mass means a little more oomph is needed to get it into orbit. Typically, a resupplied Dragon mission will return the booster to a landing zone back around the launch site, but this time they needed the extra power. That meant a landing on the drone ship a shortfall of gravitas. Now sadly, we did not get any views of the Dragon separating away, which is a real bummer because I was hoping we would get to see the 2 Draco engines included. Regardless, it was successfully deployed to make its way to the station, and it didn't take too long to get there. It docked with the ISS just the next day. This was a wonderful time in the orbit to dock because it was lit up beautifully. Over the years, Dragon really has become the workhorse to support anything needed for NASA and the logistical needs of the station. Again, really nice view of that coming in, but do you need another angle? Well, another exquisite shot from Sen. This is a time-lapse where they shrunk the 5 minutes down into what you see here. I absolutely love the angles that Sen puts out, so make sure that you are giving them a follow there. Afterward, they even shared the scenes of the Canadarm2 inspecting the Dragon cargo. Now, NASA is planning to have SpaceX fire Dragon's reboost kit using the 2 Dracos in September, so fingers crossed that they stream that event. Now next up was the launch of another rideshare flight in the NAOS mission. Here was Booster 1063 lifting away from the pad at Vandenberg's Slick 4E. There was no fog here, and it was another wonderful time to launch approaching midday at the site. About 2.5 minutes in, the first stage separated away as usual, and unlike the previous resupply mission, this one was doing a return to launch site. There was no better time of day to see this happen, and about 8 minutes later, there was the booster screaming back in to touchdown on landing zone 4. This would be the successful completion of its 27th mission, so this is getting very close now to the reuse record holder, which at this point had done 29 flights. This view, as they say, never gets old. Beautiful landing there. Now then we finally got to peek at all of the important payloads of the mission, the primary one of course being the NAOS, or the National Advanced Optics System for the Luxembourg military. This is a recon satellite that will observe Earth in a low Earth orbit around 450 kilometers in altitude. An excellent view of that one drifting away, and only the first in a series of 3 deployments. Indeed, there was a lot more on board. A few more Earth observation satellites, planets Pelican 3 and 4, they separated to drift away next, and then SpaceX needed to relight the Merlin vacuum engine to change orbit for the next to be deployed. That relight kicked off at 53 minutes, and then another one at 1 hour and 7 minutes. Following this, they could then deploy Capella Space's Arcadia 6 payload, 3 of Pixel's Firefly satellites from India, and then Leap 1 hosting payloads even from Australia. As a quick side note, all of this was mixed in with SpaceX carrying a few undisclosed satellites too, so yeah, another very intriguing rideshare. So what about Starlink, you may ask? Well, we didn't see one until the Group 1056 mission on Wednesday morning, again from Space Launch Complex 40. An almost brand new booster, number 1095, only on its second flight here. Now, we got to see some stunning footage during the scrubbed Flight 10 broadcast, and this was the first time, I believe, that we had ever seen Starlink's laser equipment in action like this. This mini laser is apparently capable of creating a communication link between third-party satellites or even space stations connecting them to the Starlink network. Now, it can do this with a throughput of 25 gigabits per second at distances up to 4,000 kilometers, which is just wild. This technology has recently just been tested using Starlink satellites from the Group 1020 mission, which flew earlier this month. Now, even more impressive is the huge upgrades to this idea, which comes once Starship is flying with the full-sized Starlink version 3s. Those will have much bigger laser links that will be able to transfer data with speeds up to a gigantic 200 gigabits per second. I can't wait to see details on those tests or, well, launching the initial set of version 3s. Now, along with this, they showed us the Starlink assembly line and all of this intricate work being done at the Redmond Satellite Development Facility. Now, this is already producing about 70 satellites every week. A nice shot here of the group being stacked together. Back to the flight, nothing out of the ordinary here, just read the instructions was the drone ship awaiting that fiery kiss. That of course meant that we were counting down for the record breaker. Yes indeed, booster 1067 that I mentioned earlier, which is the record holder, was now going for the big milestone, flight and landing number 30. SpaceX added this really neat little cool touch, a tiny crown to signify this event. The booster roared off the pad at 39A in the early hours of Thursday, carrying the Starlink stack for Group 1011. This booster was first launched in June of 2021 on the CRS-22 mission, and just a tad over 4 years later, it has now reached that huge round number, 30 missions. That includes the 4 missions to the ISS, multiple commercial payloads, and many, many Starlinks. It is truly astounding how reliable SpaceX has made this recovery system, and they are not done yet. Kiko here, SpaceX's VP of Launch, mentioned that they are currently aiming to fly their Falcon 9 first stage booster now up to 40 times. That's crazy. Stage separation there and fairing jettison showing that clear stack of 28 heading on their way to orbit, but our eyes were all on that booster heading down for the recovery. A bit of a bummer that this was all in darkness, but a nice signal there as booster 1067 touched down. Another perfect bullseye on the drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, and just look at that colour. That black coating, undeniable evidence of the life that this one has had. So on to launch 40, right? Beautiful. Now that left just the one Starlink Group 17-7 mission to go just hours before exporting this video out. I think it's kind of bananas that with all the other action this week, they still had room to casually hurl another 3 of these missions off this week. Flight 15 here for booster 1082, another stack of 24 there at fairing deploy, and of course I still love you there out for the catch. So yes, my friends, that has been a huge week of action. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe so we get to keep making them. If you want to continue with more space goodness, check out this video here next, or maybe these videos. Thanks for watching all this way through. As always, that helps a huge amount. I will see you all in the next video.